Hey everybody, it's Vicki, and I am a happy Vicki because I feel like I accomplished something in this art journal. This is Journaling by Fives, designed by Shannon Green and Diana Trout. And this was my second journal, and I completed it yesterday. I slapped a cover on it. I bought this pillow ticking as a what do you call it? I completely forgot what you call it. The end of a bolt where they roll it up and sell it at a discount. Anyway, I got it at Walmart. It's a nice canvas texture. I'm sure you can get it anywhere. If you'll remember, this book was a gimme advertising specialty book with a coil binding. Yesterday I was working on it and I thought, how am I going to handle that? And then I had a brainstorm, or what we call around here brain farts, and thought, okay, I'll just glue it all the way around, make, you know, not tight or anything, and I glued it to here, to where the holes were. And I thought, if it doesn't open tomorrow when everything is dry, all I have to do is two things. I could cut on a straight line right here, and because there's no glue right here, in here, then I could take it off. The binding would be exposed, the coils. And if it works, I can just leave it. And guess what? It worked. So, this is what you get when you open it all the way. See? Ta-da, ta-da. And this is how the pages flip. Just great. And I really kind of think in the long run that'll make it more sturdy, because those coils were giving me a little bit of a fit. Now what I plan to do is just finish this with, I used matte medium yesterday, it worked great. I used the Deco Arts matte medium here, and I'm going to trim that. I'm not going to bore you guys with that because it's everywhere online. If you, I mean, you know, it's just as simple as turning stuff in and gluing it down. There's no rocket science to this at all. And then put a cover sheet or another deli sheet or something like that on your inside page and you're good to go. And then we're going to decorate it. I have no clue what I'm going to do. I wish, in retrospect, I hadn't been in such a big hurry to do this stage. And I could have sewn on a nameplate or something for the name of the cover. But I didn't, so we'll figure out something else and go from there. So I will be back. Alrighty, I got my book done, or covers attached. This is some decorative paper I've had forever. Hobby Lobby had it on sale, I think, for $1, and I think I bought every roll they had. It's just great for this kind of stuff. Cut the paper around the little elastic, and I've still got a clip up here. What I did right here was just clipped it up here and then turned it in as good as I could. There's nothing in between that fabric, but I think that'll hold just fine. Ended up with a little pleat. Accidentally, it happened to be both of them facing the same way. So now I'm playing with decorating, so I thought I would let you guys watch. I have no clue where I'm going, and I guess we'll know when we get there. What I have done here is taken some Deco Art So Soft. This color is yellow green, and I've put it into a water brush with just a drop of water to make it a little more liquid and flowy, and it goes on great. So I'm making this up as I go along, so y'all are welcome to watch. And it is hotter than Hades here in northwest Arkansas. Has been for several days. And I am just staying in. Mr. Randy is still in Denver. Can you believe it? That baby has not come yet. He's been gone 10 days. Which is a lot for us, and the little hairy kids are not happy because they're not getting their twice-a-day mile-long walk. Hello, are you kidding me? This girl gonna go out and break a sweat? I don't think so. But baby Rosie has got to come here in the next few days because she just got to. She's 3 or 4 days past her due. And daughter Betsy wants the 3 older kids to meet Rosie before they head here with Poppy. And then they're going to spend a few days with their other grandma. And then she's going to take them back to Denver. And that'll give Betsy and Rosie and Kevin a little few days of relative quietness, which in that household is not easy to come by. Not that there's anything wrong with that, it's just the nature of the beast. I did pull out all my fabric markers. I've got Tulip, I've got Crayola, and I've got some deco fabric that's made by Marvy. And I've got to get some more water brushes, empty ones. I bought 2 sets of Crayolas over the weekend. That would give me 10. I would like to have a water brush with every one of the deco art colors that I have in a brush so that it would be real easy to pick up. These will be great for glazing on paper to unify a collage possibly. I picked that little tip up from Jane Davenport, and I hate to say that I've paid for a class with she and Donna Downey and I haven't done it yet. Randy's also trying to get one of his buddies to come put my storage cubes together because they are blocking the living room, and it's going to be kind of difficult to have a 2, a 4, and a 6 in this little space, especially when a lot of the floor space is occupied with great big boxes that weigh enough to squish a kid. So we're going to see who owes him a favor. And so then I've got to tear the studio up again. I won't have to do as much as I did before because everything is sorted now and in boxes that are labeled. So I can pull the boxes down and get the old bookcase and the baby changing station out, and don't know where I'm going to put those, and then put the cubes in and put my supplies back in the cubes, and that will clear this room up. It'll be real close to the end, and then I'm going to do a big reveal. Not real sure I needed the water, but I did it anyway because coming straight out of the tube, this looked a little thick. Getting some on one of my beautiful pages. Mess up some junk. Oh well. Get in screen. Love those little binder clips from, these are Tim Holtz product, I think, and instead of using them for decoration, I actually use them to hold stuff because they're just right and they're flat and they work great. So I have 7 there, which means 1 has gone AWOL. It'll turn up. Alright, let's bring this on over the edge. I think I got these empty water brushes at Target. I'm not sure. And I think they're an off-brand. But I sure hate to dump Even if it's cheap watercolor and those Crayola pens, I hate to just dump it, you know. So maybe I'll paint it out. That might work. I did an awful lot of doodling in this book, which I never have done in my life. Can you believe that? And so I may pull some of those attempts on the cover, since this stripe is all lined out for me. You guys know by now that I have an aversion to music being played during a video. If it's something I really like, I get involved in the music, and if it's something I hate, I turn it off, and then the audio comes back up and I miss it. And I know there are other people out there who have an aversion to fast forward. I tend to like it because I can get through a video quicker if the demonstration is something that I feel comfortable knowing. Does that make sense? So get what you want out of a video, and don't feel bad about fast forwarding yourself, or I like to put on there to turn your own music on. That way you know you're going to like it. My other pet peeve is having music that repeats over and over until you want to pull your hair out. And then second to that is music that changes 3 or 4 times in the middle of a video and they bear no relation to one another. For example, it's not a continuous Beethoven sonata. It might be some jazz, it might be, who knows, it might be just about anything. So there are my pet peeves, and I'm entitled. I don't like this particular fabric marker for this purpose because it's very fat. That's the Deco fabric. So I'm going to pull those out and put them over here to the side. I'm getting picky, aren't I? Picky, picky, picky. Let's see how the Crayola one does. Better. Come on, give me some juicy. Right. Let's see what it does on fabric. There's not much coming out of that. I wonder why. Let's try the brown one. It's better. Yeah, it's better. Okay, so I really want to try a black. This is a water-based black Sharpie. It works great. I do know one thing about me is that arrows and straight lines and circles are, I don't draw flowers too much. I just make geometric patterns. So if that becomes my signature doodle, then that becomes my signature doodle. How about that? Let's see. See me trying to figure out how to go with the stripes on this, and look at there, it's almost coming out the same spacing wise. I know, I hate people like me. When I was doing fiber arts, I could look at a complicated Greek key border on a piece of needlepoint, a charted pattern needlepoint. I never liked the ones that were, you had to guess where to put the color. I wanted the chart to tell me. It's kind of like painting by numbers. But I could look at the picture in the book of the finished product if that particular border wasn't counted out on a chart, and I could pretty well nail it first time. Everything would match. I don't know how I did that, but I can't even thread a needle now. Of course, I haven't tried, so there you go. Alright, this one's a little bit different, so what do I want to do? Do I want to go on the white? Yeah, it's close enough. I love pillow ticking. I think I dreamed about it the other night, and then when I was at Walmart, just on a whim, I went by the remnant bin. That's what it's called. I couldn't think of it earlier. And there was a, I don't know, I think I got a half yard free, maybe a full yard. So about $6. And that'll be enough pillow ticking. I could probably do a few pillows. Stuff them with goose feathers from the backyard. Yeah, right. Ha ha ha. I'm not my grandma. Of course, living on a farm 40 years ago was a whole lot different than our life now. I have to be real careful when I'm humming or singing, because Dixie is one of my favorites, and since that's been labeled offensive now until the dust settles, I'm going to try not to whistle it, but it sure fits the bill sometimes. Alright, there's some black. Let's see where we are. Now I want some red. Screaming for red. This is a real pretty color. It's not really so much red as it is a rosy red. Have you noticed how kids have so many cool art supplies now? And even though they may not be artist quality, they're good enough for mixed media quality. Don't get ticky, Vicki. Hey, that could be the name of this video. That cracked me up. It's so nice to have found a community of people who relish the humor that comes out of us when we're creating. Okay. In fact, sometimes I think the sillier the better. Oh, voila. Now what? She says as she scratches her head. Okay, we got a lot of blue in this book. screen. Y'all can't see that too good, but you know what? I'm going to ditch that fabric marker and go to this blue Sharpie. Yeah, that's better. The fabric paint is very soft, which is a thing to remember because that may be what you want. I wanted something that was a little bit, look at there. I just messed that up bigger than Dallas. Oh well. It do not matter. It's what we used to tell clients when we were back in my graphic design days. Now there are typos in your copy, so I will be able to tell whether or not you read it. They're put there intentionally, and it's your job to find them. Now the truth of the matter was, I didn't put any typos in their copy, but I needed them to read it. You'd be surprised how many clients will sign off on something that they wrote and we typeset, and they would never read it for typos or for making sense, for that matter. Now what you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when the well runs dry? I don't think that goes together. Well, how about we just do that? So anyway, they'd come back and they'd be so proud of themselves for catching those typos. What they didn't know was that those were real typos. Or somebody, I'd forget to tell somebody, and they come back and they go, I found a typo. And I go, yeah, I put it in there just so you would find it and you'd read it real carefully. Worked. Covered my butt, and it made them accountable. Because the person who does the actual production, typesetting, typing, whatever you want to call it, will not see their own mistakes. Particularly after you've futzed around with it hours upon hours, typed it, laid it out, proofread it yourself, spell checked it, and there will still be things in there that your eyes just get used to. So that little bobble that I just made, it doesn't matter. Now I'm going to go across there. I'm going to draw that straight line there. Because nobody's going to look at this anyway. I'll do a show and tell for you guys. Make a video. And then it'll languish on a shelf someday till whoever cleans out my stuff will probably put it in the big old dumpster. And that's okay. Because that is not the reason we do this. We do this because it makes us happy. And that's why we do it. And it is the process. If it weren't the process, you would expect me to design this first, work it out on paper, and make sure that I follow my pattern. But that is exactly the habit that I'm trying to break. And there you go. Because I can be precise with the best of you. You're talking to somebody who did the very first computer charted cross-stitch and needlepoint patterns. The very first. And then later there were people that made big money with it. Programs they put out and all this stuff. It's okay. Because I was already moved on to something else. I think it might have been I moved on. No, it was before that. Stenciling first made a resurgence in the 80s. And of course everybody was looking for the next big thing in the craft industry, which was then called HIA, Hobby Industry of America. And the organization that I originally came from was TNNA, and that was the National Needlework Association. And National Needlework Association had its own trade shows, 4 or 5 of them through the year. And HIA also had their trade shows several times during the year. So if you were a craft manufacturer, which we were, you were on the road an awful lot, and those were tiring trips. All you saw of a town was the inside of the conference center, and you might dash out for dinner, and then you might stay out a little bit too long. Nah, not me. And then you do it all the next day, and try to get orders from shops, and same as what goes on now. Eventually those two groups merged and became CHA, Craft and Hobby Association. And that's what everybody now loves to go to. It's a big deal for everybody. If I got offered the chance to go, I would run screaming the other direction. You can bet your ass on that. Oh look, this tulip has a real fine point too. That's cool. Let's see what kind of a mark we can get. Oh, that's good. That's alright. That's nothing to write home about. But guess what, sports fans? I can come back over that with a regular paint pen. I just betcha. And then I guess I'm going to need to seal this fabric, aren't I? Otherwise it'll get all grungy. I'll have to take a toll or a pole and see what some of you guys recommend. We'll call this Wiki Doodle. This is about all the doodling I do. Occasionally I'll find myself doing something similar to a Zentangle. But if I have to get out a book and learn how to do a tangle or a doodle, and I'm not real sure that's what I need to be doing. But I did do some that kind of look like that in the book. Not knocking that for a pastime at all, nor would I ever knock the adult coloring. Each medium has its place, and the whole goal is it's about the process. Whatever floats your boat, and whatever makes you smile, and whatever makes you want to get up in the morning. Nope, that doesn't show. Love this Molotov. This is a 2mm round, 1mm extra fine. What does that mean? Does that mean you can turn the tip around? I know I've had it out a couple times. No, I don't think so. I probably just ruined it. No, we're not going to put that out. I don't know why I feel this urge to sing when I'm doing this. And I am not a singer. Do you have a go-to song? Well, I just told you one of mine was Dixie. I don't really sing it as I doodle it. Doodle doot 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 doot. And I got in the habit of walking around the house and doing big old sighs. And I notice some people sigh a lot on their videos. If you catch me doing that, will you please give me a virtual kick in the butt? And so now we're going to work through this excruciating issue. And we're going to sigh about it because I want you guys to know how hard it is for me. Bull crap. So when I would do that around the house and go, I would turn that into a song. You know, silly stuff, but psychological game that you play to beat yourself. There, that's not great, but it'll do. It'll do. Get her done. And that's that. Let's see, what am I going to do here? I pulled out some fibers because these colors are all through this book. And I have a little bit of trash. I have a little bit. Look at that. I got that for $3 at the thrift store. I'm kind of wondering, boy, this is getting awful girly. Awfully girly for Vicki. I don't know. This is tulle, glitter tulle. I think I paid $1 for it. It wasn't much. I got it at Walmart. Maybe. Alright, let me see what I've got right over here. She cackles with glee. My last trip to the dollar store, I bought some head wraps because I figured they were about the right size to use for bookbinding. Black? Nah, we're going with the green. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. How do we get this done? We cut it. Now if this works, remember this book had a pencil holder right here? If I can get that through there and tie it off, that's what I'm going to try to do. Hold my beer and watch this shit. Sorry. I'm heathen. Okay, that's elastic too, so if I can get that pulled up. Pokey tool. Get that through. Ta-da! Now let's see what happens. Where'd the black come from? Oh, that's the other elastic. Hello. Now, if that was wrapped around there, then this could wrap around there. It's not as tight as it could be, but I think it'll work. I could twist it a few times and that would work better. Alright, let me turn this camera off and I'll come back in a few minutes. Okay, I'm back. Let me show you what I accomplished. I used some duct tape, washi tape, and matte medium, and I just trimmed these ends kind of, you know, fluffy. And I put a piece of tape down, put some matte media on top of the tape, and then a bigger piece of tape. If it doesn't hold, I'll do something else. This page, the inner page, was showing, so I put another piece of, this is real duct tape in the medium size, you know, the 5/8 inch size, and you know, let that look like it's been decorated a little bit. And then back here, same thing, and I didn't trim these cute, but doesn't take me long. Remember, I cut my teeth in the fiber industry. Did a good job on that one. That's alright. And I just brought those two pieces around that elastic tie. The other thing I did was tied a knot in my hairband to make it smaller. So that works. And there won't be any stress on this ribbon, so that should work. The stress is on this one back here. Now what I've done is picked out a DecoArt stencil, and it's of a tag. And I think what I'm going to do is just trace around that, trace in the holes maybe. Is that what I want to do? Let's see. Sharpie, water-based. I want it at an angle. Kind of centered, but it doesn't really matter. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to color in where you would normally stencil. I was afraid the fabric markers would give me too soft an edge and might bleed a little too much. And this appears to be working great. I may have to get some more of these Sharpies. I sure do like them. Can I get in there? Yep. You're just a gem. Yeah, there are so many, and is my whole head in the picture? There's so many ways you can go about decorating something. You've just got to, and this is me preaching to myself here. You've got to get familiar enough with your supplies, and you've got to have them organized where you can find them and easily put them away, or you will just be in a mell of a mess. And you'll find yourself buying duplicates because you can't find what you've already got. Like I said, I know that's me I'm talking about. Alright. Voila. Now, that's what I say all the time, is now. If it annoys you. I'm just going to try to close up those stencil marks. They're really not annoying, and I might make them more noticeable if I mess with them. So, now, see? I just did it again. What do I want to do now? White gesso. I'm going to put the lid back on my matte medium. I have it open in the studio with a piece of plastic wrap on top. And that way I don't feel guilty because the fan's going and like I'm going to mess it up. Let me get the deco art. Okay, here we go. I'm going to paint out of the lid. And I'm going to gesso in the lines. Because we've got to have a place for the title. And I always go in the upper third. You want to know the reason why? Because when I was learning the craft book publishing business at Leisure Arts in Little Rock, the upper 3 inches, well shit, I'm sorry, you can fix it. Take a chill pill. That was all that would show in the racks in the stores, was the top 3 inches. So you had to make sure that your title and your typography and color of the photo behind it was interesting enough that it would make people pick that one up out of the rack. Told y'all I'm heathen. So, just bear with me. It won't hurt you and it won't rub off on you. This book cover needed some white. It was begging me for some white. So anyway, I worked for Leisure Arts for several years. I was their first head of surface stitchery. What that meant was everything besides knit and crochet. So if it was needlepoint miniatures for dollhouses, or if it was plastic canvas, perish the thought. Plastic canvas purses, then that led into the canted cross-stitch craze. I was there on the beginning of that and watched that entire industry boom and then cycle. I was design director for the entire creative department for a while. That meant coordinating with designers for knit and crochet and with canted cross-stitch, or the surface stitchery. And then they got into a line of plastic canvas kits, and I just couldn't devote my entire aesthetic self to plastic canvas. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I left the company and did a really cool design book called Jacobean Designs for counter cross stitch. I don't know, I think it must have sold 250,000 copies or something. Did I get a royalty? Nope. Nope. But, anyway. Went on and had formed my own company called Needleworks. And we had a real good run, doing all the trade show things and continually coming up with new titles and doing all the production, and did quite well. And then guess what? Another boom, another crash. That was about the time interest rates went to 16%. And of course, like everyone else, I was operating on financed production costs. So from there, I went and started doing contract work for companies like B. Blumenthal in New Jersey. They were at that time the manufacturers of sugar and cream cotton yarn. And during the time of that, I took all of their old what do you call it? Crochet thread stuff that you made doilies out of. They had books going back to 1900, I think. And of course they all look like they were from 1900. Took some of those and redid them. Nothing wrong with the patterns if you like doilies. Anyway, took those and republished them. Republished several new titles for the sugar and cream. I also did a lot of contract work for a company called Paragon Needlecraft. And they had licenses for Ziggy and Hummels and, oh, Walt Disney, hello. Precious Moments. So I got to do some titles for them. And that was fun for a while. And then that particular lifestyle, for me anyway, got real old in a hurry. Nothing but deadlines, nothing but travel. So by then it was 86 or so. And that's when Macintosh came out with their first Apple computers. I thought, that's interesting. They say they're really going to do away with the printing industry. Of course, everybody in the printing industry was scoffing. And, nah, that'll never happen. I talked to my print rep who had seen millions of dollars worth of print revenue come through his plant in Little Rock because of my contracts. And he said, oh, don't worry about it. It'll never happen. Because they can't even print good type off of those. Which, back in the day, there were type houses that did nothing but set type. And, you know, it could take 3 or 4 days to get a draft back, and you'd make edits on it, send it back. It'd take another 3 or 4 days. And for a 20-page leaflet, the typesetting cost could be several $1,000s. Now, everybody's laughing. About a year later, Mac came out with the first laser writer. Before that, it had been dot matrix. You remember the little dot paper that goes through and has the holes on the sides? Well, that first laser printer was very low resolution. It was 300 dots per inch. But what happened was that was good enough for a lot of mundane printing, like forms, you know. So I learned how to typeset, and I started doing forms for a local printing company that their typesetter couldn't. She hated them, number one. She took all the time off that she could, and she made her job stretch. And consequently, there was always a lot of overflow typesetting. So I was getting a couple $1,000s a month typesetting for them. And first day they called and wanted to know if I could do a 36-inch wide form I said sure, of course, and then realized, well, I knew, my computer was a Mac SE, had a 9-inch monitor, diagonal, 9-inch. I had splurged and got the first laser writer printer. Those two things together cost me almost $10,000. And here are these people wanting to know if I could do a 36-inch form for International Paper Company, something that they kept by their paper machines. And kept notations on, and shift changes and stuff like that. So I said yes, and then set out figuring out how to do it. Well, guess what? I figured it out. It took me about an hour and a half, and they paid me $850. So I became the form queen, and that led to doing some more book publishing, or I was continuing contract work, so I took over doing the typesetting for those books. Kept the same time schedule because I wasn't going to let a client know that I could now do it in a couple hours. Kept the same time schedule and kept the same money that I was quoting and billing my clients. So, instead of a type house getting it, I got it. And it didn't take too long for clients to get wise. Not just my clients, but clients everywhere. And then it didn't take too long for type houses to be completely pushed out of business, because it wasn't too long after that that they made an upgrade to that printer. It was a third-party logic board switch out that gave us 600 DPI, so double the resolution using the same printer. So now typesetting on a desktop computer, became very feasible for high-end jobs. So I taught myself how to do all kinds of typesetting. Had to learn kerning and headlining and leading and all that sort of thing. And then as it turns out, as computers became colorized, or color was available, and the processor speeds and all that stuff became greater, started seeing print companies go out of business. And they had full production facilities of guys that did nothing but make color separations from photographs, transparencies. Well, they were the next ones to go. And the color houses that's all they did, like type houses, they soon went. And more of this specialized work was put on the top of the shoulders of people like me. So I had to scurry around and learn everything I could about something that was previously a 20-30 year process for these guys who'd been doing it forever. And then fast forward to, I did really, really, really good. I got so good at the software that I could do in 1 hour what would take an ordinary designer 3 hours. So guess what? I billed 3 hours. Nothing wrong with that. It was just because I had practiced hard enough to get really, really good. And fast and accurate. So then what happened? Oh yeah. And then Windows started bundling free software with Windows PCs. And when they started using mouse technology and did that, the next thing you know, every receptionist in the world could do business cards, newsletters, letterheads. The clients were willing to sacrifice quality of design for completely wiping that out of their budget. So, as the world turns, and my whole design business was phased out, especially when up here in Northwest Arkansas, people were being turned out of University of Arkansas Design School going to work for Walmart and then going out on their own, and they were charging $5 an hour and I was charging $100. You know, go figure. So I'm sure that that's the same thing the experienced color houses and type houses had to say about people like me. So there you go. I'm going to turn this off so I can draw this, and I'll be back. Man, I can't believe I talked all the way through that thing. You can tell that I need Randy to come home, need that baby to be born. Anyway, I decided to cut it off there because it was already running so long. And I'm going to do the final walkthrough with the finished cover and page by page on the inside in another video. So I hope to see you all there. Bye!